Hello, welcome to the Film Vomit Podcast, extension of the Vomit series of podcasts. As always, I'm your host, Mac Taylor, and here with me...
Oh, yeah, here with you today is Cole Selby for the second time.
And there are sirens outside of our window. Someone may potentially be dead.
Wow.
Which is a good segue.
Yes.
Today we are talking about Happy Birthday to Me, film from 1981, which came out after Friday the 13th came out in 1980. There was a big craze of holiday-related horror films, and then also slashers as a whole started just being mass-produced.
Yeah, it was a big surge of them from back then. You say this was made in 1981?
Yes, and this was filmed in 80, so pretty much probably as soon as Friday the 13th came out, they put this in production. Because every studio wanted to have their money made off this slasher craze. And it went on for a majority of the decade in the 80s. Around 86, 87 is when these films started to be poorly received and just swept under the rug.
People just weren't into it at that point.
Yeah,
they got their good ones, and then all these other kind of mock-ups or money grabbers.
Yeah, I was about to say we had a lot of movies made, so not everyone was gold. In fact, most of them were pretty shit.
Yeah.
Because when your whole reason for making a movie is to piggyback off of something else's success, about 80% of the time it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
But again, Friday the 13th was made to capitalize on Halloween, and it's a decent film.
It's not bad.
It spawned a franchise of pretty some really, really, really good films. Friday the 13th Part 4 being one of my favorite slashers of all time. But, intentions aren't always there, right? But in this movie's case, I think it was a movie that tried to just make some money and was not that great.
You can tell that they tried to put their twist on it, their own sense of intrigue.
Yeah.
But it really just fell off the mark at that angle for me a little bit. Because it was more confusing than it was, thought-provoking.
Yes, because sometimes, and I've said this on other podcasts before, simplicity can be a good thing, right? Because like the Banana Splits we talked about last week, it is a very cut and dry, dice 'em up, gore fest.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and as soon as it goes, it keeps going. It keeps you in the mood.
Not every movie needs to try to have Oscar bait script, right?
And then and we say that, but a main tagline of this movie was 6 of the most
bizarre murders you've ever seen. Which when you compare it to some of the other films that were out at this time, no, these were not. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of creative ones, or ones that aren't just stabby stab.
Yeah.
But
I'll talk about them when we get to them.
But some of them are pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
And they do that blue balls effect because also back in the 80s, the ratings board was a bitch on gore. You could show someone getting raped, or you could show a decent amount of sex scenes that were, nudity was fine, but gore wasn't, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, until Rambo.
Well,
Rambo.
Well, the 90s started to be...
It was the big action movie.
It was when all horror films, post-Scream. Scream changed the horror genre, and then everything tried to be that.
And then that was...
and we get a lot of bad movies out of that decade, too. I'm sure we'll cover plenty of them heading forward. So without further ado, let's talk about Happy Birthday to Me. So we start off, and we get Bernadette walking to meet up with the other top 10, which I guess by top 10, it never explained if they were the top 10 in the class, or it's just because they're rich.
Yeah, I'm guessing top 10 as in top 10% of the school, because that's a pretty big deal, right?
Or maybe just rich kids.
Or maybe just rich, because that's a big key point too.
So the headmaster's scolding Bernadette about if you kids, she's that traditional headmaster.
Well, at first, Winston, her dog, trips her in the weirdest way possible. The leash is thrown at her legs, wrapped around both of them, and she trips over, and this dog just ran at her for a couple seconds.
I don't know how the leash would do that organically, and also this dog is not very large.
It's not. It's it's a
bulldog.
Yeah.
Adorable little bulldog. which they're strong dogs,
Yeah,
but still
but-
the leash is not going to like whip around someone's leg.
Yeah, like
or
at-
again.
at-
It's
like,
almost
at
like
that
the
point-
headmaster was like, "Let me teach you a lesson about
Yeah.
walking in the dog." It was weird.
Yeah,
It
like
was
at that
weird.
point, like you would just drag the dog more
Yeah.
than trip yourself, I would think.
And
But that was just really weird for me.
very weird start. Because they were trying to build suspense of like, this girl's alone, what's gonna happen, and then nothing happens.
I have a little bit of suspense a little later.
Because and that's also a big thing in horror films in the 80s. There's a lot of like false startles.
Yeah,
There's a lot of jump scares.
and they can work.
Yep, some are effective and most aren't. Some get a little annoying.
Like the ones that just
This one's
jump
just
out at-
confusing.
Yeah, this is a weird one.
But yeah, she does that typical headmaster thing of like, if you kids spent as much time as you did goofing off as you did in your books, you'd be the smartest kids in America.
You'd go to Harvard. It's like,
Yeah.
and she's like, yeah, okay, bye.
Yeah,
Wanna go?
well, she just like shit talks her as she's walking away.
It's like, oh, Winston, can you please give me some head?
Yeah, weird, which is a weird
Yeah,
line.
like,
Like, of all the smart-ass remarks, that one was like just. But again, most of this movie is just if it had said like some of the weirdest dialogue you've ever seen in movies, I'd be like, yes, I agree, that is weird.
and let's just wait for Mrs. Patterson just to be about 10 feet away before just saying something like that,
Yeah, she was still within earshot.
Yeah, unless she's super old, can't hear.
But this lady does have one of the worst haircuts
Yeah,
in the history of
like
haircuts.
it's a mullet, but it's like straightened and also like dual color, like the tips.
Yeah,
At the end of them, only the
it's
mullet part are
very
like
weird.
frosted.
Like any scene she was in, I couldn't not pay attention to that, and it took me away from the rest of the plot.
Yeah, she was strange design.
But also a very useless character in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of the movie.
She was there literally just to add feel. Like this is like a 2-hour-long movie, and like the scenes
We
in.
need someone to just tell be the authority figure to the kids in very select scenes.
Yeah, like they have authoritarian figures. It's just she has to be like the one to.
The annoying
Yeah.
one. But and again, she was not in a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
And it feels just
Yeah,
forced.
every scene she was in was
wasn't necessary. You
Yeah.
could have cut all of her scenes out of the movie, and the movie would, except for the very beginning, and the movie would flow the exact same.
It'd probably be a little bit better since it'd go a little quicker.
So Bernadette is then attacked in the back seat of her car
Oh yeah, in a very
because you always are supposed to check
Yeah.
the back seat,
yeah, and she gets choked out for a while.
and then she acts like she died so
Yeah.
that the person would let off, and then she proceeds to not run away.
yeah, she run like honestly, it's a good idea. Like play
Yes.
dead, then kick the door open and run. But she only runs like 10 feet.
Yeah. And then just stops and he's like, someone help me. It's like, okay, bitch, run. Just keep running.
Like she's holding her throat. She's like, help. Like she's like wheezing, help me, because she's obviously hurting. She had her throat squeezed. You can't yell. Just keep running.
Just run.
And then it happens again. The dude comes up, like looks at her through the window of another
Which is
car,
weird that he
it.
opens the door to do that. You couldn't like peek up through the window.
Opens it and then gets in the car and then uses only his little hand to jump through the window and grab onto her. And like that's gonna do anything. You're through the window. Your hand's
Yeah.
through the window and you're grabbing her hand. She smacks, runs off and like
Another 10 feet.
Yeah, another squeezes away through between a car and a wall
van.
and a van and a car. Squeezes through. Only runs another 10 feet before turn around and meeting somebody she recognizes.
Yeah. They do the "it's you" thing that every like whodunit does,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
like,
super annoying.
Please help me, please.
And then the person's got
Like a
straight
shaving-
razor.
Yeah.
And then she again doesn't run and just allows herself to get her throat cut.
Yeah, just super quick and then an immediate cut.
Yeah, but like she watched this person pick up the straight razor and slash her throat.
Yeah.
So, which again, I know the plot needs to move forward, but this is just very lazy.
Yeah, like we can have stupid characters, but that's pretty imagine like already
she's smart enough to get out of.
Yeah.
You should have just killed her in the car.
Yeah.
If you were gonna just need her dead.
like you showed off her intelligence and then
it went
immediately-
away.
Yeah, immediately made her dumb. Like just keep her dumb or keep her smart. And they can die either way.
Exactly. Because again, most people in this situation would just haul ass. Like
Yeah.
you get out of that car and you just run.
Yeah, I would keep running and not stop running. I don't even have a destination except away.
Because she was on her way to the bar.
Yeah.
haul ass to the bar.
Yeah.
And meet up with those other people. So we meet the rest of the top 10. So I guess the 9 of the 10.
Yeah.
And we meet Alfred and his rat George.
Mm-hmm.
And they're dicks to these. I guess it's like one of those old people clubs.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the hell they're called.
It's like a pub.
Yeah, like they just go drinking. Essentially, a bunch of old guys drinking, and they're keeping to themselves. They're not being rowdy.
Like they're doing like a little bit of like the 50 like that bottles of beer on the wall song, and there's like a but
a bar is loud no matter what.
Like if you've ever been in a bar, you know how noisy it gets. Like I go out of the bar every time I leave the bar. I'm like my ears are ringing.
Yeah.
The music's super loud. Everyone's loud. Everyone's there trying to have a good time and talking. Like and then what's his face? Greg just becomes ultimate dick mode.
Just starts trying to throw hands because they keep singing the song.
Yeah, like they're having a good time. You're having a good time, and you don't see them fucking.
This was also because they're seniors in high school, so this is back when the drinking age was 18, and not 21. So he was like, you should just be happy you're out there drinking.
Yeah.
Don't be trying to throw hands with a bunch of adults.
Yeah, they and after that they Alfred shows up, and they start making fun. They make fun of Alfred when he's walking
because
in.
he is into taxidermy, so they always just give him shit about stuffing things.
Yeah, but I mean,
which is their only joke about it.
Everyone needs to have a hobby. I mean, taxidermy is one of them.
And it's like, he doesn't make a thing about it, but like they all do.
Yeah,
it's all the time. Any scene he's in, until this one scene, that's all they bring up about him.
Yeah, and that's when he introduces George
the rat.
Yeah, George the rat. And then he starts to do a little hitting on Virginia.
Yes, he is very much into Virginia.
Yeah, very noticeable right off the get-go. Offers to buy her a drink, and she's like, "But we buy our own drinks. That's the rule."
And also, this side plot goes nowhere.
Yeah, it's pretty. It seems pretty dull right off the get-go. It gets worse.
Yes,
but yeah, offers her a drink. She's like, "But we buy our own." She's like, "But I want to buy you one." And then that's when Anne offers to hold George.
Yes, which then leads to
her giving it to Ray. Or
Rudy.
Rudy. Yeah, Rudy giving it to Rudy. Or either actually dropping it, because she says he dropped it, actually dropping it, and Rudy finding it.
Yeah. So he offers to buy the main guy, he calls him the Grand Wizard, which is actually kind of a funny remark.
Yeah, it's pretty. He's pretty funny.
And drops the rat in the beer, and then the guy freaks out, which, again, poor rat.
Yeah, poor rat. And since it was back in the day, that rat was actually dumped in a thing of water. That's pretty... a little animal cruelty there from that time.
At least it wasn't dead. At least it's not like Cannibal Holocaust where they're just hacking up turtles and shit.
Yeah, that was rough. But rat turned out to be fine though. Then they get he sees the rat, he freaks out,
and then a big brawl ensues between all these old dudes.
Yeah, all these old dudes
and these high school kids.
And then the owner is like keeping back the old dudes. He's yelling, it's like, "I'm gonna call your head mistress," and they're like, "Fuck you!" And then they proceed to get in their cars, where Anne shoves Virginia into Greg's car.
Yes. Into his Firebird.
Yeah, his Firebird.
And they're going to play what they call the game, which is chicken on when they have one of those bridges that raises up because boats come through, and they want to see how high the bridge can go, and they can jump it. And that Steve is always betting money on things, and he bets Greg that he'll chicken out and not jump it. Because Steve apparently has developed a gambling issue.
Yeah, Steve he ends up losing because he chickens out.
Yeah.
So he ends up.
But Greg doesn't and jumps the bridge, and Virginia freaks out and runs away.
Yeah, and the first thing that came through my mind is she freaks out. Obviously, so I'd freak out a little bit if someone did that because their front end just smashes into the ground.
Yes.
But this is a time where cars were made a bit better, a bit more sturdy.
If this was today, that thing would have been done.
Yeah. Rips off his front bumper, but he keeps driving. Then they have to stop because Virginia almost throws herself out of a moving car. And as soon as they stop, she gets out and runs straight into the woods, no contact.
Which apparently she lives
just
a little bit that way.
Yeah, a little bit into the woods, but it's still really strange to just
haul ass
into the woods randomly on a road you probably don't. I mean, I guess you might know, but
still, she just runs in the woods, and they're all just like, "Yeah, it's fine. She lives over there."
Yeah, and then you have that zoom, that ominous zoom on Anne.
Yeah. Which they do that to a lot of characters. Where they're like, is it this person? And they zoom in on, it's like a weird zoom. It just holds. It's like an uncomfortably long hold.
Yeah, they have a couple. They have a couple of weird shots.
Where it's
a lot of weird shots in this movie.
It's a little bit of I know they're trying to mask a transition,
Yeah.
That's like the laziest way to do it.
It's not like just a random fade.
So let me just hold right here and okay, and we're to the next scene.
Yep, right into black in the next scene. Yep, and that happens. And goes to visit her mom's grave and start and.
Yes, because we get because this is when we start to get the reveal of there's more to this plot than just dead teenagers.
Yeah. Like Virginia obviously feels, regret.
That triggered something in her, right? That bridge thing. Like there was more to that than just the event.
Yeah, like so. There's definitely a reason for the over-the-top freak out.
Yes.
For her, like once we find out.
And then whilst on her route home, the French exchange student, he's also one of the top 10. His name's like Antoinette.
Antoinette.
Something like that.
Something like that.
He is like, let me walk you home. And she's like, yeah, I'm good. And he like grabbed her and
like
got
I know
super
the way.
Yeah. It's like, yes, she does too. It's everyone in this high school is like a borderline sociopath.
Yeah. And once we get back to the house, after we get that weird zoom on him too.
Yes, because we're like, is it him? Because everyone else has black gloves. Because we saw the killer in the beginning had black gloves, but everyone else also has black gloves. So it's like,
everyone has black gloves.
Could be
everyone
anybody.
has the exact same scarf. It's like fucking Hogwarts.
So it's hard to tell who the killer is.
Yeah. So like, yeah. And once we get to the house, there's a little bit of back and forth between her and her father.
Because she wants to talk about her mother, and he's like, we'll never talk about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's a whole thing.
Yes, which we get like bits and pieces throughout the film, and then at the end we get it all put together, which we'll talk about that then. But whilst she is getting ready to go to bed, Antoinette is like stalking outside of her house.
Like he climbs up into the window.
Yes, to steal her panties.
Yeah,
she sees like
weird.
a silhouette and screams, but her dad does nothing.
Yeah, as soon as she gets upstairs, she puts the music on, starts to undress. That's when we get that peek from the closet when she's shifting through. And
again, we see later why he stole the underwear, I guess.
Yeah,
but it is very vague and also weird. Just extremely creepy.
Yeah, and then when she enters the bathroom for the first time, we get that first another jump scare of a shadow in the shower.
And it's like, I know back in the day they used to do pain raids in colleges and stuff. So like, but this isn't a dorm.
Yeah, this is someone's
house.
You break into someone's house
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, like taking the panties they just took off and throw on the floor.
It's extremely creepy.
Yeah, that was a weird
for a
thing.
Multitude of reasons.
Yeah, then she finds the window open and freaks out.
Yeah,
Sam's
as you would.
Yeah, and then it cuts.
Yeah, then we just move on like nothing happened, and the headmaster is scolding everyone for the bar incident, and she's like, wherever Bernadette is, we know you guys know, and they're like, we actually don't know.
Yeah.
Which, isn't there a play called Where'd You Go, Bernadette? Because that's all I could think about when I heard this. Can you tell we're theater kids?
And then after that, that's when the science professor or teacher or whatever, he's like, all right, now that that lady is gone, let's do our school stuff. And
and they turn on the static machine so his hair gets all static, and they're all laughing. He's like, what's going on? You're laughing at it. Look at this frog leg I can make move.
Yeah, and then he goes like, he's like, I'm gonna shock Rudy.
He's like, the thing about electricity, it's transferable. Yeah, shocks the guy in the nose.
And the really, really bad lightning effect.
Yeah, very bad
was
effect done there.
It was just a solid 6 inches of yellow
because this is before CG, so this is superimposed over the picture, and it's very, very obvious.
Yeah, it's not. It's like it doesn't even look like they even tried.
You could have you didn't need to see it. You could have just had him zap him.
Yeah, and we would have got it.
Yeah, we don't need the visual.
Yeah, normally you won't see something like that anyway.
If there was that bright, that would have hurt like hell.
Yeah, that looked super cartoonic. Very cartoonic. It makes me feel like I shouldn't have taken this movie seriously enough.
You took this movie seriously, Cole?
I was trying until this movie, a third of the way in.
The writers didn't take this movie seriously.
Yeah, but and then that happens, and he starts to show off how electricity makes frog legs move and twitch, and that's when Virginia gets her first flashback.
Yeah, which is a interesting transition because the light goes bright, and then we cut to the bright light. This one was a better.
Yeah, it was a bright red light. Yeah. And then the camera
panned a little bit.
It panned and it twisted to an offset view
to show like a dream-like sequence.
Yeah,
that's a good transition.
Yeah, that was a
unlike
good
the other
one.
So we get just her in the hospital getting her head checked. We don't get any context. That's all the flashback we get.
We do get a little bit back and forth from the doctors talking about cell regeneration in her head.
About brain tissue.
Yeah.
And how it could have effects on her in the future.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the overall, like, even though this is a whodunit movie, it's also like, it could be her because she could have, her brain was warped.
Yeah, and that, it kind of makes sense a bit.
But it's hard to do a whodunit when you have one character that has all this story and everybody else just kind of there.
Yeah, it just kind of makes it a bit more, more obvious, even though it still isn't.
Yeah.
About
but it's still a red herring.
Yeah.
But it's hard to focus on anything else, especially when everybody else's could it be them moment is very forced.
Yeah, it's very weird, and it doesn't really bring up anything. It doesn't lead to anywhere, and it's not even explained. But right after that, dirt bike. Right?
Well, no, we meet her psychiatrist,
we meet the psychiatrist
David,
first. Yeah,
because she talks. He's like, apparently now all of her memories are going to come back about the night she was traumatized. I don't know why.
We figure out why at the end. I do know that. I know the trigger.
Oh, because of the bridge incident.
That was the main
That's what triggered it. Oh, okay. Oh, see, I didn't catch that. That's not bad writing there. One of the only points of good writing in this film, but it's there.
Yeah, they do follow through it the entire way through,
yes.
and do add a very nice conclusion about it.
So we cut to the dirt bike stuff. Antoinette is racing, and Steve put a bet on it.
Yep, and
he wins, so Steve gets money.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I couldn't have done it without these panties I stole from you. And of course, Virginia is upset.
Yeah, immediately, just like, why the fuck would you do that?
And then Alfred threatens him.
Yeah.
And we get this weird just zoom in on Alfred's shirt.
Yeah, Alfred's just first there's a very uncomfortable zoom, panning, really close ups on his face.
Yes.
When he's talking to Antoinette.
And he's just dead ass staring in the camera.
And then he stands up, starts walking, it goes right into his red shirt, goes to black, and boom.
Yeah, it's like, why? That's not a transition. This movie didn't need to be an hour and 50 minutes. You could have cut at least 10 minutes of dead silence. And then Anne, of course, is always coming to Virginia's aid, trying to calm her down. The French guy, Antoinette, is then working on his dirt bike whilst it's on.
Yeah, while it's on, running, wheels going.
So he's working on a wheel while the wheel is turning, which I don't know any shit about vehicles, but that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, and it seems like to me what he's testing, it looks like he's testing the fittings on his bolts and stuff, which you would not want to do if it's running.
Because then they could fly off.
Yeah, it could fly off. If you need to tighten them, you can't tighten it while that thing's on.
Let me just put this wrench up to this moving wheel.
No, that's not a. It's it's weird, and he's doing all this with very loose, dangling attire.
Yeah, he's got that scarf on.
Yeah,
he could have been killed. Not if no one else was there, he still probably could have died. Right?
Yeah, just by complete accident, and that would have been an accident if you just let the
the body there. It'll look like he was just real stupid.
Yeah, because the killer comes in and just takes the scarf when he's working on the bike because it's super loud, so he doesn't notice, and just throws it right onto the
wheel.
Yeah. And then he immediately gets choked up, and there's a burst of blood.
Because he goes into because the killer also revs the throttle.
Yeah.
Which then kind of grinds his face up, but we don't really get to see.
Yeah,
we don't really get to see a shadow of it, but it's not in focus.
We don't really get to see any of the deaths really well.
Because they were trying to avoid an X rating, because back then it was really hard to gore. But still, you'd think on the Blu-ray we'd get the uncut.
Yeah, something.
But again, back then I guess the cut footage was lost. We don't have the full version of Friday the 13th Part 7 because footage was cut and erased. So it's sad that we'll never see some of that makeup effect.
Yeah.
Because some of the gore that they do show is not terrible.
They do show with one of the deaths with the garden shears. They have some pretty decent looking intestines and stuff.
Yeah.
Coming out. And it looks really nice. It looks like they tried pretty well on that end. The gore effects.
So he's dead. Boom. Or should I say vroom.
Yeah, vroom dead.
Anne and Virginia sneak into Alfred's house. So now they're breaking into Alfred's house?
I don't understand. This is when I picked up.
Because they're worried about him.
This is when I pointed out, why is everyone breaking into other people's houses?
Yeah.
Why is this okay?
You can't call people. And if they don't answer, like, you know, maybe knock on the front door.
I know.
Or something. Like, it's weird. They're like, all right, I haven't heard from this guy in a couple of days. Let me come in through his window and see what's up.
And this is when we get a very strange fake out that doesn't seem like a fake out at first until the next scene.
Yeah, so they find Bernadette's head, and they're screaming, and then Alfred comes in, and he's like, she was my model. If you guys are very good, you can be my models.
Yeah.
And then he pulls out the eye, which we're supposed to see by that the eye is fake because it doesn't squish or anything, it's plastic.
Yeah.
But still, zero context on why he made a fake head.
Like, in my notes,
for Bernadette.
In my notes, I said Alfred kills Bernadette with severed head on table. But then I put in a little fake. It's like his fake out because it's not actually Bernadette's severed head. And he takes out, you know, the eyeball. The first thing I think of is like, oh, you know, with taxidermy, you put in fake eyes because the eyes will, you know, go like, you know, disintegrate over time, deteriorate over time. So like that makes sense to me. It's like, so he's pulling out the thing to be creepy because it's a severed head. And then that's what I was thinking. And then it cuts.
Yeah, he did a bad job of explaining. Well, we actually never get an explanation. Why did he have a fake head?
Like if
Bernadette?
Like if she was like a model for him, and she was like, "Yes, I want you to make a severed head of me," because
but why did he say that?
Like she agreed to this. Like, I'm sorry you guys had to see this.
This is a project.
Yeah.
Like, he has a very promising career in special effects.
Yeah, that and taxidermy if you wanted to do that too.
But
it's really good.
Again, and also, why did he have a bloody fake severed head of her?
Yeah, why was there fake blood around it too?
Yes, I don't know what that was, and we never. But that was enough for Anne and Virginia.
Yeah,
because they are totally fine with it.
Yeah,
moving on.
Yeah, and then it immediately transfers to the headmaster's office.
Yeah,
when Anne coming out and Virginia going in.
They're all getting grilled about the kids. They're all gonna have to like have detention or something.
Yeah,
because the person's got like they have zero control of that.
Yeah, like someone just up and left, and like how okay, so yeah, it's their friend, and she just up and leaves.
And even if it was a prank by Bernadette, what the hell? Like it's hard to punish them for that because they don't genuinely know what happens.
It's like I'm gonna give every one of you a detention because one person is gone for longer.
Your friend could potentially be murdered. All of you detention. Like, think about that.
I'm thinking about her being murdered. What do I do now?
Then the whole gang goes to see High Noon. Like, literally, Anne says the whole gang's going to be there. And I'm like, no one talked like that in the 80s. That is a 60s thing.
Yeah, and like...
And also, they went and saw a Western.
Yeah, a Western. That's a weird movie for people
like
them.
An older Western.
People like them to watch. Like preppy rich kids.
There's also no rock and roll in this movie.
Very bad.
This is the 80s. Hair metal was a thing.
Yeah, that's very bad stuff.
And these were supposed to be edgy kids.
Yeah. And then right after that, we have a little scuffle between
Rudy and Greg over Maggie.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of sharing happening between this friend group.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're just okay with that, or like
they're not. But
well, I mean,
the rest of them, yes, nobody bats an eyelash.
Yeah, and because Rudy was all mad because like, oh, you didn't invite me to come to the movies. Well, like, okay, sorry.
Yeah. So you didn't invite me to go see High Noon with the gang.
Yeah,
you said the whole gang was gonna be there.
Yeah, and
bitch. So then Greg is doing what all jocks do when they're frustrated. He aggressively works out. Alone with a bench press, which is the worst idea. And again, even if he wasn't murdered by someone else, he could have potentially just been killed because he was doing something stupidly by himself.
Yeah, you don't want to bench press, especially when he was pushing himself.
Yeah, he was raising the weights.
Yeah, like because someone comes in, you know, obviously like covered because it's supposed to be the killer, and he immediately recognizes, oh, can you help? Can you put some weight on the things for me? They go around, they like really slowly put the weights on.
Yes, like this is a long scene.
Yeah, while he's just talking, it's like, hey, was I right tonight? Did I do the right thing? Like I feel like I'm getting
angst, all the angst
and stuff, and then he they put on some extra weight. He benches that. He's like, put on some more weight.
Yeah, he puts on 10s and then 25s. Yeah, so the 10 is like in the middle of 25s, which is like you're supposed to put the heaviest toward the middle, and then distribution wise,
center. You want your center of gravity closer to.
But instead, she just puts the 25s over the 10s, so it's like not.
And really, it looks like on his bench press, he's benching a lot. like, because the bar itself is like 45 pounds.
Yeah.
He then has like 3 25s on either side and a 10 on either side.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight
For a senior. I know he's a senior high schooler, basically an adult, but that's a lot.
But when he picks it up, you're not even pushing it.
Yeah, he's struggling so hard, and
it's like, why didn't you just put it back down immediately? If you picked it up, you're like, yep, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, so he's sitting there stiff arming this.
Yeah, which is horrible.
Yeah, this
idea.
freaking.
You're supposed to bend those arms.
Yeah, and then the killer pulls back the little
the
resting
catcher
thing, and he's like, "Oh no, bring that back! What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Which, if you were in this situation, you would start to try to push the weights away, like get
just
up and turn and push him to the side.
Like, he has his arms straight up. All he has to do is let the weights fall backwards, and they won't hit him.
Pull him back over his head, and then boom.
Yeah, just do like that. You can even do a little toss.
Yeah.
And like, okay, maybe you get a little knock on the top of your head, but at least it's not going to kill you, hopefully. Like, if it's a little graze.
Yeah, you can do that, or you can, like I said, like start to turn and throw it to the side. There are ways to not die here.
Yeah, let one side go down first.
Yep.
But he just sits there for an uncomfortably long time while the killer goes and he picks up another weight and drops on his crotch, which
so
makes him drop.
He gets his dick
thing.
smashed, which then makes him drop the thing and smashes his throat. So he gets crushed dick and a larynx.
Or like I think he crushed like his fucking jaw, or like his head or something.
I thought it was his neck. I thought it fell straight there.
Because of the ending. Like, it looks like they would like.
Maybe it got his chin
something.
And neck.
It was not very clear on how.
But that was a creative death.
Yeah, it was nice.
The dirt bike kill was done better in Leprechaun 2.
Yeah.
Which, that's rare that I say Leprechaun outdid something, but it did. So Greg's dead.
And then right after that,
Maggie comes in to see Greg after she's already talked to Rudy.
Yeah.
And there's a weight that's like stood straight up behind the door. Don't know how it was holding there at all.
Yeah.
And then it falls and almost kills her, but it doesn't.
And the entire scene is completely clean too.
Yep.
Whole thing.
So the body's gone, blood's gone. Yeah. This killer moves very fast.
Yeah, that's going to be a very thing. This kind of thing is going to
burning plot hole.
Yeah.
Because the killer's identity, it's how does this person get from point, like, still be around the friend group, but also clean up all these bodies.
And really, how did they push up that massive weight to balance on behind that door? Like, that's a lot of weight.
A lot of weight.
That'd be heavy.
And Greg struggled. He couldn't even rep it.
And he was the strongest man in the group.
Yeah.
All right, then we go to a
soccer game.
Because
I couldn't find any information, but this high school has so many amenities. This has to be a college they were filming at.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. And, again, these are rich kids. Maybe there is, like, a super high-end high school that has all this stuff. Like, but it's like a PCA in Zoe 101.
Mm-hmm.
How they had so much stuff because that was a college campus. So somewhere the PCA school exists. It's a college somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So some kids got to go to that school, which is awesome. Yeah. But, that wasn't a high school, clearly.
And then and the transition was really weird because Maggie goes in and she gets this echoing of like kill him in her head, and then
that was a good transition.
And then it cuts to the game of Virginia yelling kill him for the soccer team.
And Steve also bet on the soccer game.
Yeah, and he's freaking out because he's scared of losing.
Because Greg is the normal goalie and he's not there, and Alfred is. So apparently Alfred's on the soccer team.
Yeah, I'm guessing Alfred's just like some backup.
But again, he's on the soccer team.
Yeah, he's on the soccer team.
That's a shocker.
But he catches a shot.
Yep.
Into the goal.
And then someone else right before the whistle blows kicks it. This is one of the highest. 3-2 is one of the highest scoring soccer games I've ever seen. Which I don't watch a lot of sports. Period. But the soccer I have seen is, and sorry to all the soccer fans, it's extremely uninteresting to me.
Yeah.
Steve won his bet, which I'm sure was another.
And then Virginia
$20.
kisses Alfred for winning the game.
Yep, and then that gets him all fluttery.
And then she immediately doesn't she immediately go for some other dude then right after?
Yeah, she starts talking to Rudy because Rudy's like, "Hey, let's go up to the bell tower."
Yeah.
And also, I saw that.
And before that, Rudy that's when we get a little of a thing of him jogging. And that's when we see him start covering up a scarf in the dirt in the flower bed. Which
we'll get to later when that's revealed. But, yeah, again, we see him doing... Because, again, they try to do that. The only person that doesn't have a red herring of they may be the killer is Steve. The only person we don't see doing something weird or out of place. because he's too busy betting all of his money.
Yeah.
And the cheerleaders, their shirts spell out Crawford, but just the way they were placed, it like for a second I thought it said F word. I was like, you can't just write fuck. Like
also,
if you hear that
like
edgy of kids.
Those uniforms are very, very revealing. Like and when they're standing up, standing still, the skirts don't even go down their like all the way covering their crotch.
Nope.
Like their crotches are still exposed.
But they have like the lamest colors because it's purple and then like a very, very light purple.
Yeah.
Like your school colors are typically two different colors.
Yeah.
Like our high school wasn't dark blue and also a light blue.
Yeah.
It was white.
Yeah, it was white. It was white, like a navy blue, a dark blue.
And I think gray was in there too.
Like a bunch of colors.
Yeah. Like it's not just one a very you don't have all the spectrums of the same color. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So I know that's a dumb thing to be upset about.
Yeah, that scene was like just kind of
It's just there just for because we need filler. Again, this whole scene could have been cut out.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have just met up and said, hey, you want to go to the bell tower? And then this is not necessary, other than we just get more of Steve's gambling problems.
Yeah, more gambling.
So they go to the bell tower, and Rudy's he's trying to warm up to Virginia, but he's being super creepy.
Yeah, he's like acting out like
he's trying to be like funny, but he's doing a bad job at like usually when you crack a joke, you then smile and laugh at the joke.
I think it's obvious that Rudy doesn't want to actually get with Virginia, but he's just really lusting over like Maggie.
Yeah, but still, it's like he's very bad at humor. Like he lets it linger too long, very dry.
Yeah,
and it's like he's all creepy up the stairs, and he's acting like Quasimodo, and it starts to be funny.
Yeah, like they're starting to get into it a little bit more.
And he's like, "What if I cut this rope almost, so then when they go to pull it, the rope falls?" And she's like, nah, come on, that's mean. And then he's like, I've got a knife.
He's like, Virginia, I got a knife.
And it's like that, how you would make fun of a horror film, right?
Yeah.
I have a knife.
Like, Virginia, I got a knife. Where are you going, Virginia?
Yeah.
Come back.
And
like, super weird.
And then we just get no context again. And we find, I guess it's a chapel also. Yeah. Why this high school has a chapel makes zero sense.
Very weird.
But the pastor finds all the blood and the rope's broken. Yeah. And he goes, murder!
Murder!
This guy, they took him straight from a dinner theater and put him right in this movie.
Murder!
My favorite character.
The bell ringer.
Murder! It was fucking brilliant.
It was great. It was
We needed more of him.
Yeah,
he should have discovered all the bodies.
Yeah, and that's when we cut to the hospital.
Yes, because we get Virginia is having brain surgery done. And actually, when they did this scene, it's an actual brain surgeon performing on a false brain. Which is actually, because that's actually how a surgery would be done. I thought, because when you watch it, it is very much in detail.
Yeah.
Which, again, was it super necessary? No. But then she freaks out after, because every flashback she has a freak out and has to go talk to David about it.
Yeah, that's when we cut to her.
Yes, and she's freaking out with David, and she doesn't know what happened at the bell tower. Like, she has no memory of the end part of it.
She was also freaking out to him because in her flashback, we hear the doctor say, it's like, she's dead, like her brain shuts down, and then she's super pissed off at David because she's figuring this out. It's like, you killed me, you killed my brain. And she's confused about what happened at the bell tower. She has no idea what's going on. She's like a wreck. Everything bad's happening there. Like what a poor girl. Honestly, at the end of the day.
So then they have a meeting in the library, interviewing all the kids. Which why would you do this in the library? Did you tell me this school doesn't have an auditorium or some sort of like conference room?
Yeah, like they're just
like. In the library.
And that's when the doctor, David.
Yeah, he shows up to talk to her because he wants to know the deets. He's like, you got to tell me. If we got to hide a body, you got to let me know. Mm-hmm. And Meanwhile, the police are like, hey, you might want to see this thing outside. And this asshole kid goes, hey, everybody, there's something outside.
Everyone rushes outside.
Overruns the police.
Like, that shit was fun. Like, why would you not have more police there?
But that was hilarious, though.
Yeah,
that was like that fucking douchebag kid. Like, hey, everybody, this guy's whispering over here.
Yeah, that's when they're digging, and that's when Virginia's left inside alone. Yep. And that's when Rudy pops in again. Just jumps over a railing.
Well, he hangs from the railing, acting like he's dead.
Yeah.
And then he falls to the ground, and then when she goes to walk away, he grabs her foot. And it's like, ha, I'm alive. The rope burned my hand. Had to get some stitches. And it's like, and again, you couldn't have just come up normally and been like, hey, I'm fine, by the way. I guess they wanted you to be like, was Rudy dead? But again, that's a very dumb thing in retrospect when you see the movie.
Yeah, and also like the whole thing with him was just very confusing to me, like the fake death and then him being gone and then his coming back, and it was very weird and strange. Yes. And that's when she tells him that they're bearing they're getting something out of the.
Which turns out they find what Rudy buried, which is a skull from the science department with a scarf. But again, what was the point of him
And he seems distraught about it, too.
Like, oh, no, they found my thing I buried from the science department. Again, why did he do that? Other than to make him look sketchy in that one scene. But, like, what was his character's motive? Was there a prank? Was there a bigger part of this?
Like, if it was a prank and he wanted someone to find it as a
why was he so freaked out that they found it?
Yeah, like, why wouldn't he want someone to find it?
Yeah, that was just really dumb.
Yeah.
And also, David goes, hey, officer, can I see that? And he's like, yeah, sure you can handle potential evidence in a murder trial.
Yeah, very poor police work, very poor detective work in this movie. People,
they don't even know this guy is.
They have no idea, like, how to operate a crime scene at all.
This guy who clearly doesn't go to school here or teach here just says, can I touch this?
Yeah, this mound of dirt that's a skull, and then finds out it's fake.
So then they go to smoke weed I guess this is like, because Ball State had a pool. Yeah. And there was like a back.
Oh, and right before that, Virginia does invite David to a birthday party.
Yes,
dinner.
Which, was set up for later.
Yeah.
But, there's a smoke in the devil's lettuce.
Mm-hmm. Like in this room that's like beneath, like.
Yeah, you have a window where you can see the deep end of the pool, like underwater. I'm not entirely sure.
It looks like a storage area or a maintenance
room. Yeah, it's
room.
like where they keep like the extra buoys and things.
Yeah, they're smoking weed, it really looks like they have a couple of joints there.
Should you be smoking weed? Because when I was a lifeguard, and where we kept our equipment was also where like the chlorine tanks and shit are, and it builds up when that door's closed and shit. It builds up a lot of potential gas that you don't want to inhale. Yeah. So one, you shouldn't be there for an extended period of time, and two, you probably shouldn't be lighting anything. Yeah. Nearby said said thing. So this was probably a poor choice in general.
Yeah, and that's when we find Maggie.
These kids were gonna die anyway.
Yeah, that's when we find Maggie, like floating seemingly lifelessly.
Yes.
Down the pool to the floor.
Playing dead. So Virginia clearly freaks out for good reason.
Yeah, and then
everyone else just nonchalantly just waves, and she waves and goes back up. Like what were you doing?
And none of them care about Virginia.
Zero. No one goes after her
and check on her. It's like, hey, what's the matter? What freaked you out? No, they don't care. Not at all.
And then Alfred is stalking Virginia. Like she's up at her mom's grave. And he's like reaching in his pocket all slow, and you're like, is he the murderer? And then he gets stabbed with a pair of shears.
Yep, and this is when we actually get to see the person doing the stabbing, and what we see right now is Virginia with the black gloves, with the shears, stabbing him right in his gut, and that's when we see his hand slowly open up, and there's like a little flower thing there.
But again, very bad way to approach a woman.
Yeah, and then we immediately get out of that to a school dance.
Yes, where again, no rock and roll. It's all
like weird techno stuff.
Yeah, like which I guess 80s. That kind of music was also starting to come out.
Yeah, prevalent. But like these are the younger generation.
Yeah, these are the high school kids.
Like, they would have wanted to listen.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Yeah, like I mean, they already got the sex and drugs part.
Yes, all we need is the rock and roll.
Yeah, and like they're sharing.
Yeah, because at this dance, Maggie starts to talk to Rudy again because Steve's like, I'm done with her. And again, it's like, what? And then Virginia starts hitting on Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, because Rudy's like, yeah, can you go take Maggie for me? She's been bothering me, man. Like she wants you to dance with her. He's like, okay, yeah, that's when Virginia.
And Steve's like, you want to get out of here? And she buys into it because her dad's not going to be there.
Yeah.
And they go back to her place, and there's like, the fire, and they make shish kebab. Like she made some bomb ass snacks.
Yeah, because she did say she can make some good snacks.
And she did make good snacks.
Make some kebabs, drink wine in front of the fire.
Proceeds to have the most terrible makeout session I've seen in film. Like he does it.
His mouth was wide open while hers was like only puckered.
And he wasn't putting lip to lip. He was like got like his bottom lip was on her top lip, and his other lip was like under her nose. It's
stroking her nose.
Steve, have you had sex before? Because I really don't think you have. I think you might have just fucked someone's belly button.
God damn.
Like it's pretty awkward.
It's weird.
Yeah, which again, from in the independent film world, a sex scene is, or even a potential love scene, is never fun to shoot. It's always very awkward.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you should have it look awkward on the film.
Like and now, if Steve were to be made as like someone who is like kind
if this was Alfred,
yes,
that would make sense.
Yes, if this was Alfred, like then we can make a joke out of that too.
Yes, but Steve's the cool guy.
Yeah.
Or like the level head one of the group, the leader almost in a way.
Yeah, the gambler.
He should be a little smoother.
Yeah. And he's obviously shown himself smooth with the ladies like on occasion.
Up until this very moment.
Up until this very moment, yeah.
And so she's feeding him kebabs and then just skewers him in the mouth, which this makes the poster for the film as well. Yeah. This is the infamous, when people talk about this movie, that is the kill that is identified with this film.
Yeah, the kebab.
The kebab kill.
The kebab kill. And that's like an extraordinary amount of force to stab a kebab through someone's mouth out to the other side of their head.
Yes.
I feel like you got to really
jerk it. There's a lot of bone and like hard muscle back there.
But then that was an immediate death from him.
Yes. No struggle.
Nope.
Immediate death.
I guess he was pretty high at the time too.
I guess. But still. And then Anne arrives in the morning and there's no body anymore and Virginia has no memory.
Yeah, tosses her the keys, says, "Come in, I'm gonna take a shower."
Yep. And during her shower she gets the flashback of her drunk mom freaking out while driving.
Yeah, we're starting to get more of the pieces of what went down with her those years ago.
And then she stops when the bridge starts to raise and the car falls, lands in two shots it lands upside down.
Yeah.
And in the third shot it lands, normally.
Right. Yeah, like they really needed to use those expensive scenes.
Which apparently during those two takes the stuntman broke both of his ankles.
Ooh. Damn, that's rough.
Because of the impact when he hit the water.
I mean, yeah. I mean, fuck. Dude, that's oof.
Did you really need to have anyone in the car?
No. You did not have to have anyone in that car.
The bridge raises. You can just drop the car.
God.
That was a bad idea.
Yeah. It's like, what am I here to make sure it's okay? We're dumping it in the water.
There's no interior shots.
Yeah.
You didn't need anybody in
unless
the car.
Virginia and her mom are both in it, but at that point it's obviously just like a set with like a pool.
Yeah, it was a stupid idea.
Yeah, it was weird.
Poor stuntman.
It is cool being able to get like the trickle of information from her. That way you can like
we're getting piece by piece. It's almost, this movie is more of a mystery.
Yeah.
Than a horror film.
It's
like if you take the gore out, you could make a Sherlock Holmes movie out of it.
Yeah, it's a taut mystery thriller.
Which that is not a thing.
It's taut.
It's very taut. Yes, that was my first thought after viewing this film. How taut?
How taut, indeed. But yeah, that was kind of cool. I did like that bit.
Yes. I went a little down the page here.
And then we go back to her screaming in the bathroom.
Yes, because she finds Anne, and at first we see her just under the water, and then we just see a lot of blood.
Yeah, I'm guessing like her throat was supposed to be slit or something.
I didn't see any prosthetics.
I didn't see much at that because it was really quick, like snap.
I guess this is supposed to be part of her psychosis.
Yeah, which is it's weird because like this particular instance of it doesn't get explained.
No.
At all.
So she freaks out, calls David, and when David comes over, the body is missing.
Yeah, no blood or anything.
And we find out the bridge scene earlier is what triggered all these memories to come back. And apparently when the car went under, she swam up and hit her head on a boat. And that caused the brain. But
she
also,
got
like,
super domed.
Don't know how you don't see it was a large boat, because that's the boat that they raised the bridge for. How you didn't see that when you were swimming up to the top? I guess she was just in such a state of panic. She wasn't paying that much attention. But still, that's a huge boat. It'd have been different if it was like a dinghy or something, something small.
Yeah, this thing's big.
It's a large boat.
Yeah. Which I kind of like how they allow us, like the audience, to try and connect those dots before the characters did.
Yes.
Like a significant time between them, too. It's like, this bridge thing. And
they don't just throw it all on. Well, they throw a lot on you at the end, but this is not part of it.
Yeah, like it was actually kind of nice, this particular instance of being able to get that.
Then the police show up and say Anne is actually missing. Now David's like, is this girl actually a murderer?
Yeah.
And then we get the cutscene of what triggered her mom to be all drunk and aggressive.
Yeah.
Is that she, at her birthday party, I guess she was going to be like 13 or 14, the 6 of the 10 were supposed to be there. The richest kids in the town. And they didn't show up, and her dad was out of town with work, and her mom was like, your dad's never home, and he's a piece of shit.
While she's consuming copious amounts of alcohol.
Copious amounts of alcohol.
That's a lot.
And, like, different kinds. Like, she's mixing.
Yeah.
She's mixing.
Like, she doesn't care what she's grabbing. She just grabs and chugs.
It's like the headmistress from Black Christmas. Have you actually watched Black Christmas, Cole?
I watched a bit of it.
In every other scene, she has a different hiding place for booze. That's what her mom reminds me of.
This is what we find. She goes up to...
Anne is having a party the night of her birthday party.
Yeah, going to Anne's house because Anne's birthday is the same day.
And she's like, her mom's like, you need to let her in. And she's like, does she have an invitation? Yeah. She doesn't need an invitation.
And I'm just like...
This is when we set up a little bit for the end, but again, doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And I'm like connecting a lot with Virginia in this scene because she's just in like the car, in the passenger, just like
dealing with all the
shit.
It's like, on her birthday.
It's like, oh my God, Mom, please stop.
And she's in the rain like, I'm rich now. Yeah. I'm going to shove it in all their faces.
Like, okay.
So, she has an outburst, then does the whole bridge thing. So we're getting pieces and pieces.
Yeah. Which I think that's the last flashback we get. Because she says, like, they're going to pay and everything. And then
we get an outburst where she's like, no, Mother, no.
Yeah.
And then David has to stop her again. And is then murdered with a fire poker.
Yeah. Extremely, like...
copious amount of blood in this scene.
Like a lot of blood from a single fire poker whack.
Yeah. Like, one whack gave enough blood and completely smashed the closet, too.
Yeah.
Like, how strong
is
the person
lady
swinging this?
Person.
So then the dad comes home, finds all the blood, runs outside, and he finds Maggie in a state holding a present.
Yeah, I'm guessing what she did is that she saw.
She went into the house.
Yeah, she saw.
But she's not dead.
No, she's not dead. She has her present.
She got to walk in and then walk out and is totally fine.
I'm thinking that she was just outside and she was getting ready to walk in with the present, but then saw what was happening. Maybe like seeing some bodies being drugged.
And again, she didn't run away.
Yeah, she didn't run away. She just stood there and really like,
in the rain.
Yeah, like that doesn't really. She doesn't really get any closure.
She should have died.
Yeah, it would have been better if she was found dead.
So then he goes into the house across the street and finds Jenny with a cake.
Mm-hmm. But before this, he actually finds the empty coffin.
Yeah, he finds the empty coffin
of
her mother,
Virginia's mom. Yeah.
And then all the corpses are at the birthday party, including her mom. She dug up her mom's corpse.
Well, excluding David. David is dead outside.
Yes.
He's not actually at the birthday.
Yeah, well, he wasn't supposed to be. It was everyone who was supposed to be there originally.
Yeah, so he just kind of got whacked.
And she's singing happy birthday to herself, and he has an emotional breakdown because he thinks his daughter went insane.
Yep, obviously.
And then she takes the cake knife, slits his throat.
Yep, super cool. After like a weird little back and forth.
And then we see who we think is Anne is actually Virginia, who wakes up.
Yeah.
And we're like, twins? And then it's revealed that it was Anne wearing a very good latex face mask.
Yeah. And that whole thing really, like, it was very, like...
And apparently we see all these scenes that Anne frequently chloroforms Virginia and commits these murders in this mask. But it's like she has enough time to chloroform, murder, hide the body, and go back to the group and get Virginia back to the group.
And it's
that's a lot.
Yeah, and that can kind of explain some things.
And
but
this
it doesn't.
This comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it doesn't explain the bathtub scene.
No.
Like,
I guess she faked her own death.
Is that supposed to be psychosis?
Either that, and acted like she was dead, like chloroformed her, and then got in the tub, and then she had her freak out, and then somehow got out without her hearing her get out of the tub.
This is becoming a lot of steps.
Yeah, but again, this whole thing is very convoluted.
Yeah.
And so she's like, apparently, Virginia's mother had slept with Anne's father, and I guess Virginia is
the product of that.
Is actually that guy's daughter and Anne's half sister.
Yeah.
And that her father paid to have it a secret, and that's why her mother was banished from the rich people's society and had to remarry this other guy and get back to the rich people's society.
Banished from the rich people society? What? What's the rich people society? Is that an actual thing?
Well, the top 10. It was like their parents.
Is it that they're actually called the rich people?
No.
Okay, I was going to say, like, I hope they don't actually give themselves that kind of title.
We're the rich people's society.
I mean, I could kind of see that with
I could see it happening, yeah. She then goes to stab Virginia in the sloppiest way possible.
Yeah.
Like straight at an angle downward, ends up getting stabbed herself.
Yeah.
Dies, and then a police officer shows up and is like, "What have you done?"
And then
it looks like she's murdered.
Yeah, it's just people. Virginia sitting there, and then the little happy birthday song plays real slow and
then we cut to black.
Yeah. And so I'm guessing she still gets framed.
Yes, because it's hard to explain. It was her in an elaborate face mask of me because she chloroformed me and did all these murders as me because my mother died in this accident and they had to repair my brain and psychosis.
Why was all of that a part of it? Just to add red herring?
Yes,
really?
Because, in the original script, Virginia was going to be the killer as a result of her psychosis, but they thought it was too predictable and wanted an ending that would shock people. But instead, the ending just feels out of nowhere and random as hell.
I feel like they could have just stuck with the Virginia killer.
Yes.
And even if we did find out,
because it makes more sense.
Even if we did find out like halfway through the movie, then we're just looking for how is she gonna kill the next person?
And we're getting all these flashbacks still.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense from a writing perspective. But instead, this thing comes out of legit fucking nowhere.
I would imagine like her psychosis becoming worse, and like she goes into a series of blackouts, kills somebody, comes out, and like with every death,
it's like a psychological instead of a taut thriller. It's a psychological horror film that is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So this was shot with a 3.5 mil budget. Box office was 10.6 mil, so it made money.
Made pretty good.
Because at the time, all these slashers were coming out and making money. And if it didn't make it in the theater, it was going to make it in the VHS sales. Yeah. The director was Lee Thompson.
Lee Thompson.
Who directed Death Wish 4 and the original Cape Fear with Gregory Peck. Mm-hmm. The cast, Virginia was played by Melissa Sue Anderson. Want to guess? Did she look familiar to you, Cole?
Yeah.
What show was Melissa Sue Anderson a part of for many years?
I know that name too.
I spent the whole movie the first time going, I know her.
Yeah.
And then I Googled it. I'm like, son of a bitch, that's what she's from?
Yeah, where is she from?
Little House on the Prairie.
Wow.
She's Mary Ingalls.
Wow.
She took a break from Little House on the Prairie to film this movie.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I watched a good amount of that show when I was little.
David, played by Glenn Ford, who played Superman's dad in the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. Okay. And he was in literally like 75 westerns.
Heck yeah. So I've probably seen him in some of his westerns then.
Probably. He was, like at least 75, maybe 100. This guy was acting a lot back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Back when westerns were very fucking prominent in the 50s and 60s. And this was also a time, because Glenn Ford did not want to do this movie. This was for money. And he was apparently drunk every day.
That's great.
Because there was a lot of old Western stars who couldn't find work in the 80s and did slasher movies because it was money. Because Ted White, who played Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th Part 4, was like, don't even put my name in the credits. Just pay me and I'll do this. And now everyone knows him for that, other than his other work, which Ted White used to stunt double John Wayne in all of John Wayne's westerns, but everyone knows him as Jason Voorhees in Part 4. So now he's come to the role, kind of accepted it. But at the time, it was like, don't fucking talk about me being in this movie.
Yeah.
Because at the time, critics and everybody, slashers, horror at the time was looked down on. It wasn't a true art form. No one goes into the movie business at the time wanting to do horror.
Yeah, they were looked at as just lesser pieces.
Garbage films.
Yeah.
The dad was played by Lawrence Dane, who was in Scanners, Bride of Chucky, and Darkman 2.
There's Bride of Chucky?
Yes, he was one of the cops. Anne was played by Tracy Bergman, who was on The Bold and the Beautiful from 1992 to 2007. So she had a long soap career, but this was her first film.
Yeah, I've watched some soap operas.
And both Steve and Alfred's actors were in the movie Meatballs with Bill Murray.
That's cool.
So, trivia. Let's see if we've covered most of. The poster, which has the shish kebab kill on it, says John will never be the same again. Steve gets killed with the shish kebabs. No one in the script is named John. So clearly the ad people had never seen the movie.
They had no idea what they were talking about.
And everybody was in their gore makeup because at the end scene, when they're all sitting around the table, it's the actual actors in their makeup, and that scene took a whole day to shoot. So they spent the whole day in gore makeup, which, as you know, is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When we shot The Grounds, Chris was in his gore makeup for at least 4 or 5 hours, and it gets really cold and uncomfortable.
It takes a while just to get it on.
Yeah, it takes hours to get it on and hours to get it off. But the actors they actually ended up going to a gas station in their gore makeup and startled a lot of the local people.
That's cool. Honestly, that gore makeup looked really nice to me.
Glenn Ford also got into a fight with the assistant director because he called lunch in the middle of one of his scenes. But he was drunk, so I guess it makes sense. And the director was just obsessed with tossing blood everywhere, and they didn't use most of those shots because they'd be like, hey, can someone tell the director to calm down? There's way too much blood in this shot, and it's covering the camera lens, and we can't see anything. So that was the kind of director. Because this director, I haven't seen a lot of his other films, but he has done a lot of slasher films. I just haven't seen them. So I didn't write them down. Talked about that. Oh, Amelia. The hell was her name? One chick.
So there's
chick with the present.
Maggie.
She was supposed to get axed in the head and be part of the end scene, but they cut it for time, and the scene did get approved by the MPAA.
They actually cut something for time.
That and the MPAA wouldn't approve.
That's the real reason.
And then the actors, we talked about that. So that is that film. Cole, final thoughts on Happy Birthday to Me?
It's fine.
It's a movie.
Watch it one time.
Yeah, I had to watch this movie twice for this podcast, and that was too much.
Yeah, watch it one time.
And
that's it.
Never
that's
watch it again. It was way too convoluted. Like we talked about, simplicity, especially in horror, is welcomed. Especially in a slasher film. Just have a killer, have your group of people, pick them off. It doesn't need, which some of the story made sense, but a lot of this ended up just being nonsense.
Yeah.
And it just felt like I spent a lot of time watching something that didn't really matter.
Yeah. I felt I just felt confused a lot of the time.
Yes.
And
very confused.
You can have some intrigue. You can have the audience not know something and want to know.
But make sure it pays off.
Yeah. The release wasn't there, but it's worth at least a watch.
Yeah, I recommend if you're into horror and slashers, and especially the decade of the 80s, you give this a watch, but don't expect too much out of this film. So with that is our coverage of Happy Birthday to Me. Tune in next week where we're going to be covering My Bloody Valentine, the original, also I believe from 1981.
Heck yeah.
So until then, again, my name is Mac Taylor. Stay safe and stay nerdy.